Hello, and thank you for joining us again at Voice of Rohingya Radio. We are a registered nonprofit coming to you from the state of Oregon in the United States of America. I would like to take some time today to thank all of our listeners who allow this program to continue to provide the latest news through our exclusive interviews, reports from inside the border, and reputable sources from around the world. If you would like to stay up to date with our program, you can view or download all of our broadcasts online at youtube.com/VORradio, or you can join our Facebook page to find more information on past and future programs. It is May 18th, 2014. For Voice of Rohingya Radio, I am your host, Zach Taylor. Our first story today comes from Washington, D.C., where Reuters reported that U.S. President Barack Obama extended certain sanctions on Myanmar for another year on Thursday, citing ongoing turmoil and human rights abuses, especially in Rakhine State. Obama notified leaders of Congress that he was renewing the National Emergencies Act, which prohibits U.S. businesses and individuals from investing in Myanmar or doing business with Myanmar figures involved in the repression of the democracy movement. Despite the release of 1,100 political prisoners and the legalization of labor unions, Obama said of the situation that, quote, "The political opening remains nascent, and concerns persist regarding ongoing conflict and human rights abuses in ethnic minority areas, particularly in Rakhine State, and the continued role of the military in the country's political and economic activities." The European Union seems to be following suit in regards to sanctions on Myanmar. Sanctions imposed by the European Union expired at the end of April, but have been extended by another 12 months, EU documents show. The EU Council decision effectively extends the military export ban until the 30th of April 2015. However, the document does state that the decision shall be kept under constant review. It shall be renewed or amended as appropriate if the Council deems that its objectives have not been met. The decision was ratified in mid-April by the Office of Catherine Ashton, High Representative of the Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, and Vice President of the European Commission. Thousands of supporters turned out in Rangoon on Saturday for a rally on constitutional reform organized by the NLD, the National League for Democracy, and GPOS, 88 Generations Peace and Open Society, the first time the two pro-democracy forces have joined hands in co-hosting a public event. NLD chairperson Aung San Suu Kyi called on Burma's military leaders to join with the people in supporting the amendment of the constitution. "There is presently no trust between the people and the army," said the daughter of General Aung San, founder of the Burmese armed forces. "The army doesn't trust people, and the people don't trust the army. The military uses the constitution for its own protection. That is not right." Speakers rallied the public for their support in specifically overturning Article 436 of the Constitution, which states that any amendments must have the approval of 75% of the representatives in both houses of Parliament. Former political prisoner and leader of 88 GPOS added that, "The Constitution proclaims that the president should have military experience. I can say frankly that this Constitution is a bad inheritance from the military dictatorship." A stinging editorial in the Washington Post calls on the Royal Thai Navy today to drop charges against Phuket Wan over human trafficking and move to end the misery of the Rohingya boat people. Instead of seeking to rectify the situation, the Royal Navy has denied mistreating the refugees and decided to intimidate the messenger, the editorial says. The Post's viewpoint comes with Thailand's position on the Trafficking in Persons Register under last-minute review, and with Thailand's place on the media freedom listings also in jeopardy because of the Royal Thai Navy's pursuit of Phuket Wan. The case attracted even more global interest last month when Reuters news agency won a prestigious Pulitzer Prize for a series on the Rohingya. Phuket Wan is being sued over a single 41-word Pulitzer Prize-winning paragraph, republished word for word from one of Reuters' Pulitzer Prize-winning reports. The editorial concludes, "This is a sad case of Thailand's Navy attempting to extinguish reporting rather than the misery that the reporting exposed. It is wrong to punish the journalists. This misguided attempt at coercion is doubly wrong because it attempts to hide the shameful treatment of a people, the Rohingya, who are already suffering far too much." You are listening to Voice of Rohingya Radio. Thanks again for listening to Voice of Rohingya Radio, a registered nonprofit coming to you from Oregon in the United States of America. I am your host, Zach Taylor. We'll now move to reports from inside the border as an old problem has been given a new name recently. NASICA, or Border Immigration Headquarters as it is sometimes known, was an interagency force established in 1992 which comprised of around 1,200 immigration, police, intelligence, and custom officials and operated in the Muslim-majority northern part of Rakhine State. NASICA was not only charged with border protection, but also with enforcing the various discriminatory policies against the Rohingya, including travel restrictions, marriage restrictions, and the two-child limit law, and has also faced many allegations of serious human rights abuses such as imposition of forced labor and extortion. To the joy of the international community and the surprise of local authorities, who were not informed in advance of the change, the president of Myanmar issued notification number 59-2013 abolishing the NASICA Border Security Force on the 12th of July of last year. Recently, however, we've been informed that a new government agency has been founded called the Border Guard Police, or BGP. Not only will the BGP operate in the same headquarters as NASICA, but has been given the same tasks as the former controversial border force. District immigration officers of the BGP will be charged with the control of Rohingya population and birth, death, transfer from one family to another and from one religion to another, marriage, construction of houses, mosques and religious schools, and the renovation of any structure, which will all be monitored and restricted with strict punishments for those who are not complying to the draconian laws. As one of our recent guests said in an interview with Voice of Rohingya Radio, this appears to be another case of old wine in new bottles. I'd like to now take an historical look at Rohingya's long battle for citizenship, which can be seen in the history of the government-issued citizenship card program. According to the 1947 Burmese constitution, all Rohingyas of Arakan fell into the category of citizens, and their indigenous status was recognized. This was followed by issuing national registration cards, or NRCs, to all ethnic communities living in the country. After a military coup in 1962 led by military chief General Ne Win, Rohingya Mujahideen laid down their arms in exchange for peace, and the ethnicity of Rohingyas was reaffirmed for the sake of national security, integrity, and communal harmony. In 1974, another constitution was written under the one-faction Burma Socialist Program Party that decided the citizenship status the Rohingyas had been enjoying had to be revoked. Rakhine community colluded with the BSPP in a plan to seize NRC cards already issued by the previous government. In the meantime, issuance of new NRCs was stopped for Rohingyas. This operation continued until 1988, when an uprising of students succeeded in quelling it. In 1994, NASICA was formed and sent to northern Rakhine State with a reported mandate of exterminating all Rohingya. This is when new temporary ID cards, or white cards, were introduced in Rakhine State to replace all NRC cards held by Rohingya. During the long time span from 1974 to 1988, most of the previously issued NRC cards were seized from Rohingyas, leaving them with only the option of being issued the new white cards, despite the fact that thousands still have their original NRC cards establishing their legal citizenship. All other communities holding NRCs were issued new pink national security cards, which were denied to Rohingya. The international community, including UNHCR, was hoodwinked by the government as the UN had provided finances to the government for providing the white cards, believing that some sort of ID was better than nothing. This unfortunate mistake from the international community made it possible for the government to fulfill its plans to downgrade Rohingyas from legal citizens to the stateless community they remain today. Adding insult to injury, Muslim and Islam were originally written on the cards, but since 2005, Bengali and Islam are instead written, implying that Rohingya, many who have been living in the country for generations, and some who still hold NRC cards validating their formally recognized citizenship status, are somehow recent Bengali immigrants. Our final story tonight comes after Burma Campaign UK exposed what it called former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair's secret involvement with the Burmese government in an article it published on Thursday. The article claims that Tony Blair has visited Burma on around 3 occasions and is believed to be providing some kind of advisory role to the president. However, for the past year, he has been refusing to disclose exactly what his role is and what kind of advice he is providing. The British Foreign Office, which helped to arrange at least one of his visits to Burma, also turned down a Freedom of Information request asking for details and purpose of his visits. Burma Campaign UK has repeatedly asked for further clarification regarding what kind of governance work is being undertaken and what delivery mechanism and what long-term strategic goals Tony Blair is helping the military-backed government in Burma with, but they've received no correspondence. Campaigns manager at Burma Campaign UK said, "Giving strategic, political, and public relations advice to the military-backed government while its soldiers are still attacking and killing civilians and raping ethnic women would be deplorable," and added, "Tony Blair used to preach the need for transparency. Now he should practice it and come clean about what he is doing in Burma." I'd like to thank you again for tuning in today to Voice of Rohingya Radio. As always, you can view and download our broadcasts at youtube.com/VOR radio, and you can join our page on Facebook for more information on the program. I close today with a quote from Nobel Prize-winning physicist Niels Bohr, who said, "The best weapon of dictatorship is secrecy, but the best weapon of a democracy should be the weapon of openness." If Myanmar wants to move towards democracy, then it should practice its transparency. And if Mr. Tony Blair was providing useful support to the Burmese government, shouldn't that be a source of pride to boast, not a source of shame to sweep under the rug? For Voice of Rohingya Radio, I am Zach Taylor, signing out.